Hi guys and welcome back. Today is my finished piece of the week and today I'm using watercolors as usual, and I'll have a link down in the description to everything that I'm using, all the paints and all the tools and everything. And I actually plan next week, I think I'm actually going to do acrylics for my finished piece, so if you want to see me use anything different besides watercolor, stay tuned for that. But today I want to talk a little bit about the journey it took me to get to this final piece. So I do a lot of videos. I release 3 videos a week every week, and I draw a lot. That's my job, so that's a requirement. And I find that when I'm drawing a lot, working on the next thing usually comes pretty easily. And I don't have the option of not having something work, period. So I always have to have something work. And when I am working, it is a lot more enjoyable, and I do feel like I have that idea for the next one. So when I don't draw and when I don't work, that's when I have a hard time making the next thing work. But today, man, I just had the hardest time making something to start. I was really having a hard time making myself get that momentum to start working. And I think the biggest thing that held me back was the last couple of Saturday videos, particularly the ones off the top of my head were my spring witch picture and my tiger picture. I feel really great about those. I feel great about how they were more complicated and they had a lot more details, which were things that I want to include more in my pieces. I felt really satisfied with that over some of my more simple pieces that I have been doing before that. So I knew that that was the direction that I wanted to go. So when I was starting off trying to think of what to do for this piece, and I didn't have that an initial idea to build off of it, I felt like I had to come up with this great new idea, this amazing thing that had this full and interesting and complex image, and I had to have this great story behind it. And it was kind of a struggle. I was just racking my brain trying to come up with that little spark of an inspiration or an idea to work off of, and I could not come up with anything. I was looking up all this reference, I was looking up artwork, trying to find something that would make me have this idea to think, wow, this is a great idea. I want to draw it. I want to make it happen. And it just wasn't happening. In all honesty, that almost never happens for me when I'm working. The thing that usually makes it work is when I am thinking of a specific detail that I can build up on top of it. So like for Spring Witch, I wanted to draw a witch by the beach that was kind of springy. I just had that one thought and then I built around it. But for this one, I didn't even have like an initial thought of what I wanted to work on. And I just spent so many hours looking at reference, looking at other people's work, that I wasn't drawing myself. And that was really the problem there. I wasn't going to be able to have this perfect image in my head that I could just see clearly and then I'd be able to sit down and draw it. There's no way that that would happen, at least not for me. That's not the way it works. So I think the biggest thing was I had to overcome this pressure to come up with this new great idea right off the bat, right before I drew. I was really trying to push myself to make better artwork, and that is absolutely a good goal, but sometimes it's okay to let myself come back a little bit, come back to my roots and draw something that I can just enjoy and relax and have fun doing. And in the end, that's what this piece ended up being. Once I was taking way too much time. It had to happen. I had to start working on this piece, period. That's when it hit me that it was just, I was putting too much pressure on it. I was putting too much pressure on it being some new, amazing, complicated thing. I just needed to make it something that I have done before, but do it better. The execution can be where I excel at this time. So that's really what I focused on. I focused on just drawing a portrait. I love drawing portraits. I love drawing girls. I love drawing flowing hair. So that is all that I focused on for this one. And I do have a few thought processes or things that I force myself to think about when I'm having days like this, where I just don't know what to draw, because drawing something is 100% better than not drawing anything. So anytime I feel like I can't make something as good as I want it to be, or it can't be as challenging as I want it to be, or technically complicated as some of my other stuff, I just have to remind myself that it's better to draw something than it is to not draw anything and wish that I could draw something more complicated. So this was just coming back to my roots, drawing something simplified, but drawing something nonetheless and moving forward. And it was a piece that I really enjoyed. I loved working on her. And the fact that it was just this pleasant, enjoyable piece for me really just immediately took that pressure that I could feel building up. It released that. It let me focus on just executing a piece and enjoying it and having fun with it. And once I let it get back to that, it was a relief. And I know that coming up on this next Saturday, I will be able to be a lot more refreshed, but I'll also be moving forward because I was able to overcome a day like today. I can move into the next day ready to draw something that's even better. And I have a lot of different techniques that I use for when I just don't know what to draw. I have no idea. Because like I mentioned, I have no time to not make something work, so I have to make something work. And I can make a video dedicated on some of those things because there's a lot of things that are really easy. But one of my favorite things to do when I just don't know is I'll think of a specific detail that I'm really interested in seeing how I can paint it or draw it. So say I'm thinking, well, it would be interesting to try out lace. I want to try drawing lace. Then I will make a piece that's dedicated to something that supports lace. And a lot of times it turns into something a lot more complicated and complex. But it started off from that one spark, that one desire that I had to see how I would paint or draw that. And that's something that I'm starting to get more excited about. Simply figuring out how to render different types of things like see-through clothing in watercolor, or how would I do a certain type of hair color or anything like that when I just have this one little that's what I want to draw, that's what I want to paint. I want to see how that can turn out or how I can render it. Usually helps me come up with all the rest of the pieces. It's kind of like a puzzle. I can find that one piece, then I can build everything else up around it to support it. That just one little point. And that's really how this one turned into what it is. I knew that I wanted to draw a portrait, and that was really the first and main requirement that I gave myself. I wanted to do it in a profile because I wanted to, and I found a really interesting reference that I was excited about working off of and getting some ideas from that. So I was just going to go right in with a portrait. And then I turned it very stream of consciousness as far as the markings on her face and her skin. I wanted her to have a lot of tattoos, and she has this skull markings on her face. And that was very much, once I started working on it, I started filling it in, I started adding on, but it all came from just that one really simple concept that I was working off of, just a portrait, just a profile. And it was really helpful to be able to have that one where it was this is what I'm going to draw, period. It's not, well, what is this that I'm going to draw out of all of these endless possibilities? It was very narrowed down. So once I had that scope figured out, it was just about the details after that. And really, it's just very helpful for me on days like this to remind myself that I don't have to do something extremely innovative or groundbreaking for myself every single day for me to be accomplished and for me to be happy with the work that I did and the pieces that I created. I can do something that's more simple and still push myself and still learn from it. And ultimately that's my goal, is I want to get better with each piece. And maybe that just means that I'm working on the execution of how I'm doing it, not necessarily always the idea or the concept. And maybe other days I feel a lot more accomplished with the ideas. And that's it for today. I hope that this came off as positive, because overall I feel really good about the process that I went through today to finally get to a finished piece, and the fact that I feel like I am learning how to be a little bit better on myself as an artist in the way that I come up with ideas, and the pressures and the stress that I give myself sometimes isn't always necessary to be productive and to be good. So overall, I feel really good about today, especially that I ended up with a piece that I really liked. And as usual, I will actually have that piece available at my shop, so if you'd like to own her, I'll have a link down in the description as well as in the end card that'll happen in a second. And I will actually have small prints of her in the 5x7, I believe. Yes, 5x7 prints available as well. So yeah, that is it for today. So I will see you guys in my next video, and I do post every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.